Hello everybody, Adam here, and before we start on today's question and answer episode, it's time for a little announcement. Oh yes, I know how much you've missed these. So, we normally do quite a few giveaways throughout the year as our little way of saying thank you for listening to the show and to give something back. And aside from one at the very start of the year, we haven't done one this year. Now, there's a whole host of reasons for why that's not happened, I'm sure you can probably guess them. And it is too late really now to do anything about that. So, we are going to be starting 2021 strong, and hopefully we'll be staying on that track. And not just because it's a new year, but because, once again, 3 pretty significant milestones for the show. The first one we have already hit, and that is 50,000 downloads. 50,000. We have listeners across the world pretty much now. It is such a good feeling. It really is. It just makes the whole crew just feel so good. And like, we've not stopped. We have already got a load more episodes queued up and ready for you for the intermission episodes. We're starting work on season 5. It's all go from here. And that is the second big milestone, really. With this episode, season 4 officially comes to a close. Season 5 is in the works, and we have 2 short intermission arcs to carry you over there. The first one starting next episode in a fortnight, and both sets of intermission arcs have some very special guests aside from the normal cast voices again, because we like to shake things up a little bit, and you are in for an absolute treat. And the third milestone is, in January, we are going to hit our 3rd year of doing this, our 3rd year of podcasting. And when I look back at where we started, and look to where we are now, and then look ahead to the future, it's just wonderful. It's been a hell of a journey, and I'm so glad that you've all been here with us on this journey. And welcome to the new people that are joining the journey every single day. It's great to have you on here. So to commemorate this, we are having another pretty significant giveaway. We have teamed up with our friends at Silverwing Armoury and our friends at Board Game Solutions to offer 5 winners, and each winner will win a Force Majeure exclusive adventure journal from Silverwing Armoury, bespoke and only available through the show. You will win a Force Majeure branded dice bag and rolling tray. There will be some stickers in there, and there might even be some other random bits and bats depending on how saucy I'm feeling and what else we can put in the prize packages to send out there. Well, how do you win? First of all, if you're one of our patrons, from even as low as $1 a month, you are automatically entered into our giveaway competitions. There will also be a pinned post on Facebook and Twitter. If you reply to that with your favourite moments from the last 3 years of the show using the hashtag FMPodBig50, we will collate all of your memories, if only because, it makes us feel good when we look back at the things you all enjoyed, but we will collate all of those memories, and the winner will be announced after this arc at the start of our second intermission arc in the beginning of January. So we'll be starting 2021 with a bang and going forward at great speed. Right, this has been a lot longer than I anticipated it being, so I'm going to love you and leave you. Stay safe, wear a mask, look after each other, and you know how it goes. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. You're listening to Force Majeure, an actual play Star Wars podcast. My name is Adam and I'm your host, and today's episode has no sponsors, nor indeed are we playing an actual play Star Wars podcast, for you have reached the Shadows of the Jedi Chapter 2 Table Chat episode, wherein myself and my esteemed colleagues sit down and pick over the bones of the shenanigans that we've just been through, kick the dust from our boots as we get aboard the Fire Opal, and examine exactly what it is that lies ahead in the future for us. I will imminently be handing over to my esteemed Games Master, Mr. Edward Fortune, but until then, I think the rest of us should also chime in. So who are we joined around the table by?
Hi, I'm Ross. I play the Duck.
Hi, I'm Mikey. I play Kay.
Hi, I'm Mim. I play Roy.
And I'm Ed. I play everyone in a galaxy far, far away.
He's very busy.
Thank you very much, Adam, for the handover. I feel like I should have a fine glass of brandy in my hand.
You mean you don't?
No, I'm having gin and iron brew because I'm a savage.
Gin and iron brew. Now, there's a thing.
Living your best life, Ed.
So this is a table chat. Thank you, lovely listeners. We're going to do a bit where we talk about the campaign for a bit, and then we're going to take some questions.
Because people wrote in, you fools.
Always writing. I do like, writing in, and also occasionally popping onto Discord. I'm doing that more and more often these days.
Good. And yes, you should come on our Discord more. We have lovely people on our Discord.
Yes, no, it's a great community.
Dance for our fans, Ed.
I really enjoyed running this campaign. I got to use a few things. There's a few things that I didn't get to explore. So still no more explanation of the Lagomorphs. That will turn up.
Do they need exploration?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
If you go onto the Hydian Way, there's been an entire mini-series about Freebie.
The point of creating a world, or like having a bespoke world, is that you can throw in lots and lots of plot hooks. So I'm never short of stuff to throw in the story, and there's always bits that I want to touch on that I never get a chance to. So it took us an entire season to get off the 2 seasons to get off the planet, which is fine.
Well, in our defence, it's because we didn't have a ship in season 1, and by the end of season 2, we weren't even sure if it was space-worthy.
And in my defence, Roy is very easily distracted.
And I have a shop. I've got a business. I'm a legitimate business person.
And I'm hiding here,
Yeah.
You can't just ask the doc to leave his patients. That's dereliction of duty.
I don't know if you ever played hide and seek, but one of the basic rules of hiding is not to, when you've got a good hiding space, wander off.
So how did everyone enjoy it so far? How have my players enjoyed this story that I've thrown at them?
It's been interesting. I didn't realise until after we'd done it. The last fight between Ahsoka Tano and Darth Vader in Rebels is in a very similar pyramid-style thing, and we watched it afterwards. I'd seen it before, but we watched it afterwards, and I'm like, whoa, well, this is what Ed was getting at. This is what it looks like. So I very much enjoyed the imagery and everything like that. Got a little crazy.
I am as surprised as anyone at how fast Tychus has fallen to the dark side.
Yeah, man.
I think he is, and I think that he will be the first one of any of us to fall, and fall hard.
It was not expected.
Yeah, and I'm also very much, for Shadows Chapter 3, I will be changing my emotional weakness from recklessness to anger, because I think more and more throughout the course of the events in the pyramid especially, and then right at the very end with that Chadrafan, I think that anger is overtaking the recklessness a little bit.
Even Roy, who is normally there right by your side and doesn't completely understand morality, had a moment of,
Yes, but in fairness, Roy had that moment standing there with smashed stormtrooper heads on each hand. So, I mean...
What is it with Roy and sticking his hands in stuff?
Yeah, corpses. Hands in corpses.
I have really thought about this, and if you consider how people treat droid parts as interchangeable, not important, you can just take a bit off this droid, shove it in another droid, and you can have heads on shelves so you can pick which one you want for your creation. He's simply treating biological matter as you would treat droid parts. We tore some arms off some droids because they had cool possible lightsabers stuck in them, and he's been carrying them around.
You tore some arms off of droids.
No, that was me. That was my bad.
It's also worth pointing out that voice essence can be easily, unplugged, replugged, put into something else. So you can I can get where Roy's coming from.
Yeah, he just doesn't see anything important with biological bodies if they're not resisting.
I mean, to be fair, Roy's just had a full-on telepathic psychic explosion in the last few episodes as well. So I've communicated with all these other droids.
All of whom died horribly at the hands of Jedi.
Who knows? Maybe that'll put a wedge between me and Barth. But
you probably know who Wedge is as well. Yeah, good point.
The Doc's had a more of a light touch, I think, this season. I mean, there's been a couple of dark moments. There was the one where, I mean, inadvertently, but he wiped out the entirety of that mushroom species that was infesting the entrance to the place. Have I completely mischaracterized that, Ed?
No, it's exactly what you did. I'm just giggling because it's just that classic sci-fi science moment where it's like, oh, and now we can do this. And it's interesting that the way this sort of show this is, where you stopped to suddenly realise the consequences of your actions and then moved on, but at least you acknowledged what you had done. Whereas in a more pulpy sci-fi show, they'd be like, we have this spray, it gets rid of this problem. And it's like, you've just wiped out an entire living organ. The Doctor in Doctor Who does it all the time. He pulls out his sonic screwdriver and suddenly the problem's gone away. And it's like, I'm pretty sure those were sentient, Doctor.
Were sentient.
But yeah, I mean, the Doc's starting to realise, there are certain advantages to being armed on this planet. And it might be a good idea if he starts, embracing that possibility.
Is this just as we're leaving? You realise that?
No, I realised about 4 episodes ago, but to be fair, at the time I thought we only had about 2 episodes to go. So,
oh dear. No, it was interesting. It was nice to die, and that kind of helped the way the character is going as well, which is.
Wait a second, did I miss something?
I jumped into an explosion and then thought I was dead.
Oh, right, of course.
Yeah.
And we might come back to that moment as well. As players, how did you find the reveal of the Bridge of Souls?
I think it was really interesting for Roy because of the whole getting so multiple sides of everything and everything like that. And it was interesting to see the paths that we could have gone on if we were different people. I think certainly Kay was dealing with something else at that point. But yeah, it was a nice reveal. I like the fact we've harked back to we're kind of more of a Rebels type show than we are a Clone Wars type show, because there's a lot of Rebel stuff going in there and a lot of feelers back to it.
Weirdly, that whole sequence and idea I had written before I saw that episode of Rebels. Because there's an episode of Rebels that has got a similar sort of note, but which is why at certain points I'm like, it looks like this. It's very much this.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean. And I've used that idea in other tabletop games. Changeling, the old World of Darkness campaign, I used a very similar, much more Greek myth inspired, but similar sort of the crossroads, the mystical representation of where you are with your life, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
I really like the fact that obviously Roy was having some troubles and Bar came to get him, and it felt very much like, I can't remember the name of the movie, but where towards the end the guy in a uniform walks in, picks up the woman and carries her out and everyone cheers. It was like, you came and you saved me. It was very sweet.
An officer and a gentleman.
That's the one.
Oh, with Tyker Sparrow as Richard Gere.
Only without the romance. Obviously, no shenanigans, but it was very much a case of, oh, you came, you saved me. I really appreciate that.
Well, like, your family. And I know people were a bit concerned, like, do I have enough brawn and encumbrance to carry you? But you ain't heavy. You're my brother.
Get out. Just go. Just go.
Leaving the chat.
There's also a time and a place for rules, and one of the things is one of the big rules of being a DM, and I think Adam would agree, is never ask the players to make a roll that would ruin your story if they fail it. And there's no way I'm going to make you roll to have that moment. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I will agree with you on that one. As and when the time and a place for rules, I think we are less on all fours with that as a concept. I'll be honest. But yeah, when it comes to if failure is dull,
yes,
and doesn't make for a better story, then no, I'm with you on that.
If failure achieves nothing to the story and just adds an extra 5 minutes of faffing around that doesn't create joy, essentially.
Yes, on that one we are definitely in agreement. Yeah.
This is the advantage of the Star Wars game, because most roles, even if there's a failure, you can get something out of it.
Yes.
Star Wars as a game, less than say D&D or anything like that, isn't a hard fast. You have failed, you have succeeded. So you can risk those roles and still progress the story on. But yeah, there's no real. If there's no point to it, then don't do it. Essentially.
I think my biggest sin in this format of running games is that sometimes I'm conscious of we're about to run over, the pacing is wrong, and my inner storytelling bit goes, oh, we can just screen wipe, and it's like, no, we should actually have them duke it out on the plaza. We should do this. We should.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, I would have loved to have had more of you in the Ascension Chamber hiding behind bits under very dodgy cover, shooting stormtroopers. But it just would have added an extra 15 minutes to the actual show, and it was more dramatic the way it went.
You should try running one of the intermediary ones where you've got a game where it's only 3 episodes. You've got to keep it incredibly tight.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun running it. Listening back to the shows is also kind of weird because there's moments there where it's like, that's not what I wrote in my notes. That's just what came out of my brain. That's disturbing. Okay, moving on. And it's just like, there are bits where you just sit there and you go, I could have told that better. But my players are amazing, so I don't have to. Which is nice.
I really like the fact that in my soul experience, in Roy's soul experience, it kind of built upon everything that was already incorporated in the character. The fact that he's got a bit of a jumbled, vague genetic memory of hating Jedi, the fact that he's got a fear of lightsabers, everything you put in just means I can go, whoa, ramp that up to 3,000. And it has led to some brilliant moments very swiftly afterwards.
I'm so sorry, Ed, that the big bad guy will forever be known as General Kenobi.
It's a lot of fun. And I mean, I imagine if we needed to, if we wanted to, we can sift through those memories and go, okay, not General Kenobi, new person. General Kenobi killed me, and me, and me, and me, and me, and me, and me. But it was just, it's just fun. And I like it because it went, this is something that she does. Boom, let's ramp it up. And thank you very much for that.
I think tabletop games are a lot about choices and telling the story through the choices that you make. And I think one of the fun things you can do is and this is going to be a very British reference, do a bullseye thing of going, look at what you could have won, look at where you could have gone, look at the path less, the road less taken, that sort of thing. Those moments are always fun to do, to kind of roll it back and unveil.
Every time Ed spoke about a ziggurat, all I had in my head is Red Dwarf and Rimmer going, up the ziggurat, lickety-split.
Yep.
Every time he said the word, my head went, lickety-split.
Red Dwarf is a show that does the consequences of your choices very well.
This is for you, Leslie.
Even though they've already made their choices, there's no way they can change their fate. Looking back at the consequences of their choices is a thing that it does, especially the first 2 seasons of Red Dwarf, it's just astounding. And I think more Red Dwarf in Star Wars, yes please. More of that sort of, those moments of absolute self-reflection, coupled with a sci-fi sensibility.
And Liverpudlian accents.
A Liverpudlian accents and a stupid joke at the end. Just to kind of cap it off and make it real and make it feel very human. Or Basilisk, or Droid, or Syrian.
Mister, is that a cigarette? No, it's a chicken. It's just brilliant. It's perfect. It was perfect. We need more of it. Dear BBC.
Does anyone want to ask me a question? As the person who's put you through all of this, or just accuse me of something? I feel fine with that as well.
Why did you let me make a basilisk? Why did you let me create life?
I think he was lovely.
Because we needed an exposition NPC and it seemed the easiest route.
I mean, Adam's got it there, sort of. So there are a bunch of different things there that were set there to give you clues, because you are not a very investigative team.
We are not.
And there was a whole library. What you did with the library was amazing and very much in your party. You looted it.
Yes, we stole it with the intention of reading it later.
You didn't hang around and go, oh, let's do some research and see if we can find. Like, you walk into a room with a map, where the map is in that whole orrery system was there to tell you where else other things were happening, and you ignored it.
Hey, we did poke a corpse or two.
Yes, you did.
I think at the time we were more concerned that other people who knew what they were doing would get their hands on this.
Yeah, because by that point we'd gone from we have all the time in the world we need to mooch about to suddenly and unexpectedly being on the clock. So that kind of tonal shift reprioritised a lot of stuff for us, I think.
That was always the plan, by the way. There was always a plan that you were supposed to start off expecting that Destiny had handed this to you, and then suddenly, nope, because that's not how the Force works.
I don't think the Doc had ever reached a point where Destiny handed it to him. I think he always expected, yep, people are coming up behind us. We know because we just locked one of them in the toilet.
That was an entirely separate thing, though. That was them stealing Roy for whatever reason, droid napping.
You never found out.
Well, we didn't really have the opportunity for where we went, but that was an entirely separate group of nefarious types, because when we started making our way down to the temple, no one else, as far as we were aware, knew about the existence of this temple, and the only reason that we'd originally found it was because we had the mystical wing-wang that directed us in the direction of the temple. So the fact that the Chadrafan and the was it the Thermal Wolves, Ed? Which group was it? It was one of the gangs that we actually were all right with, which is why Tychus was so very annoyed.
I'd have to look at my notes, but I'm pretty sure it was either the Thermal Wolves or the Makus. The Makus being the ones that all tend to be made up of lots of different groups.
Yeah, it might have been the Makus. But like that's one of the reasons why Tychus was so very angry by the end with the Chadrafan and what had gone on, because we were we had no beef with them. It wasn't like with the Shattered Oath, where we were outright hostile with them and had been all the way through. They were nominally our allies that betrayed us. So that pressure from that group wasn't the pressure that we had for the temple. They were just some mooks out for a joyride. I mean, I presume there was probably more to it, but I imagine what it was they just wanted to sell them off and make some money.
There was a line of investigation there that had you taken that and had you spent time kind of essentially quizzing, investigating, that side of things. But that said, you were dunked straight into it. The idea was to dunk you straight into it. So if you wanted a plan, you could, but I wasn't expecting you to. But I always put notes saying, if the players ask about this, these are the answers, this is what's going on. This with Keenabel, a lot of it is this is who's paying for this. This is where the money ends up. If you see what I mean. And I have a little flow chart of this is where the money goes. This is who benefits. This is who benefits. This is who's taking a bit off the top, and this is who's benefiting from that. If you see what I mean.
And again, we could probably have had more questions, but with him then stealing from us, Tychus had enough, and no one stopped me.
You're mostly at this party with one voice of wisdom who's just trying to keep you alive.
And he sounds like Zoidberg when he runs.
Yes.
Well, see, that's another thing that I think is going to have to be taken up in character, and that is the dynamic between the Doc and the rest of the group, where it seems like the Doc cares more for everybody else than the party, because every time there was a fight going on, the Doc's priority for triage was always not the players. It was this unconscious dude, this random alien, that, rather than my mate who's been shot, my other mate who's been shot. And I think that's a dynamic that we're going to have out in character in Season 3, especially if the next plan's to go to Syria, because Tychus isn't going to Syria at the moment.
You see, no, I don't want to talk for Ross too much, but I thought that was because he was triaging. Because if you're in a medical situation, you don't fix the guy who's standing there going, heal me, heal me, heal me. You fix the people who are unconscious.
Absolutely, which is why it needs to be had out, I think, in character, because that might be from the Doc's professional point of view, but from Tychus's point of view, what he was seeing was the person that he's befriended and given a member of his family constantly prioritising Johnny T. Rando. So I think this is going to have to be an interesting conversation when we come back to Shadows Chapter 3. I think there's going to be some interesting discussions, and I'm quite looking forward to that, actually. I think there's going to be some fun time there.
Ed, if I die, I want to be called Johnny T. Rando.
That's a great character name, actually. And also just be a collection of droid parts.
In my defence, all the other players were concentrating on doing things and weren't concentrating on, Doc, help me, and can you patch this up for me? Whereas Codwin was right there and had looked directly wounded and had immediately been described as such.
Tychus doesn't mind the fact that you prioritise Carveen, because Tychus loves Carveen.
Yeah, but it was the fact it had just been recently described in between players. It had actually been recently expressed.
This is getting into the realm of in game, and I love how you're like, yes, when we get out, it's like you've literally broken atmosphere.
Yeah,
and it's Keenabel, and that system, as I have repeatedly told you, is not one that's easy to leave.
But Tychus has seen Kay fly, and has implicit trust in him.
Oh dear.
Oh, not a good judge of character.
Kay is a terrible freighter pilot. Terrible. He's a fighter pilot who doesn't realise how big his ship is. I'm the sort of person who has an SUV with scratches down the side because I think it'll fit in that gap. And I think every time I've got behind the wheel of the Fire Opal, I've dinged it a couple of times.
Yeah.
Because I do remarkably reckless things.
That's why Tychus trusts you.
It had to be that ship. When I was, I think we talked about this last time, but when we were looking at designs and characters, you're creating a new character for your players, and I think it had to be that beautiful silver machine that is way faster than it needs to be, way nippier than it needs to be, given to the hands of someone who doesn't really understand that it's also huge.
Yeah, he's used to flying in TIE fighters, which are essentially a Portaloo with sidebars.
You've given a race car driver a vintage sports car, and that's not going to end well. Does anyone want to throw more questions at me before we move on to listener questions?
Not yet.
Okay, so we're going to move into listener questions, and the first listener question, we have randomised the list, is from Blamed Cat, the Blamed Cat, and I think is actually very pertinent to what we've just been discussing, and it's name a moment that surprised you the most this season. And I know, Ed, certainly, I'm going to hand over to you to answer this first, because there's a couple of points where we did things and you just looked at us like with a look of betrayal, pain and confusion several times as we roundly grabbed your plot and threw it onto a different direction. So
there were a few, actually. So Kay jumping wildly into the breach was something that I expected, but it still caught me completely. I was sort of like, oh, okay, especially as he expected to be dead at that point, and it was like, oh, building up on that and scrolling back a bit further, the fact that you look at the carefully built maze of traps and rooms and mystery and clues. The first room is really creepy because you realise what the lightsaber can do, and you nope out of it. And I was like, I love this party. I love this party so much because that makes perfect sense. That's the sensible thing to do. To look at this room of quite clearly tragedy. Something awful has happened here. This is a place that's not full of ghosts, but it should be. There's definitely shadows of history all the way across here, and you look at that and go, nope. And also that moment where Tychus kicks the Chedra fan out into the desert to die, because that is what you have done. And like, you gave him some water. It's like, we've kicked you out into a place where Sharblin bats, worms, random ecological hazards.
He had a canteen of water. What more do you want?
He made his choice. You know, he killed himself.
To be honest, he was trying to leave at that point. We just took the stuff off him before he left.
Yeah.
Fine.
He made his choice. Tychus has no regrets for that.
I'll be honest, I'm glad that I wasn't in that conversation, because I don't think Kay would have liked the fact that we were doing this. Because Kay doesn't want any deaths on his hands unless they're stormtroopers, and Imperials. And that is a worry of his. So I'm glad I came in after he left and thought you'd killed him. Because you were very cryptic about, well, he made his choice. He will not be joining us. Make sure he has a little accident. You know, it was that sort of level of supervillain talk about...
See that he's taken care of.
The Doc's lack of intervention there, I thought, was also slightly interesting. But yeah, we'll come back to that.
I was surprised you didn't stand up for him a little more, but listening back to it, Tychus was scary. So I can understand why that happened.
Oh yeah.
I think you all had moments of characterization where you had the opportunity to turn certain corners and make certain choices, and change your destiny in a certain way, and you made those choices.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time as well that people have really seen Tychus be cold angry, because he's been quite reactive angry to stuff that's going on, and quite understandable. Like, yes, I know he's getting a reputation for backshooting people, but in each time he's backshot someone, they have actively tried to kill him and then ran away, and it's like, no.
Yeah.
But I think this was the first time that anyone really saw Tychus be instrumentally angry as opposed to reactive. It was very
bad,
calculated.
I think it's washing off on Kay, certainly. I mean, I stunned that guy 9 times.
Yeah.
Just Kay had got to a point where, no, this is it. I'm not dealing with these weirdos anymore. we have a job to do here, and it's not even a fully defined job. We've got something we need to do to make sure that Cinebele does not end up being controlled by a power-mad immortal Hutt. And that we need to do. We don't want to be messed around with by weird Jedi freaks, because we don't really understand. None of us have lore. None of us have any levels in lore. So we're just muddling our way through it as best we can. Badly.
I think also one of the things when I'm listening back to the show is, if you were doing this in any other format or any other medium, there'd be so much more exposition. But because it's a role-playing game, there doesn't need to be. The buy-in is already there. The story is already being told. It's about the characterization and the character choices. I could spoil half the fun by having Basil Exposition turn up and go, "Hi, here is what's going on. This is why the title of this campaign is this," and all that nonsense. I'm not going to do that.
Well, that's it's a mystery. You've got to find these things out. The one thing I found difficult is when we got to a point where we were fighting the stormtroopers, Kay's mannerisms turned very goal-orientated. It was, we are going here to do this and nothing is stopping me. So there was lots of walking straight to a thing, dealing with it and moving on. And that I found difficult to hopefully it came across, because a lot of it was just, no, I'm just getting through this. No, I'm getting through this. It's because he was annoyed. Because his moral weakness is hatred. He hates these guys. So he's doing what he needs to do to get through them. And it just...
And that's also... It certainly struck me that is how Kay processes his trauma. He breaks it down into things that he can deal with that are physical, because he doesn't have the bandwidth to deal with the emotional consequences of what's happened leading up to this point, and all of that unresolved grief and anger and guilt in his background. So he just laser focuses. Nope, I cannot process this. I'm just doing this. Boom, straight down the road.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. That is. This is why whenever we see any Imperials, there's none of this stun-shotting nonsense. I mean, this is the problem. He feels that he's been hard done by, whereas essentially he is was one of the villains. But there's a lot of... He's not really grown emotionally into that trauma yet. So it might take some time. And he might... If it goes wrong, or if he has a bad influence, maybe there's going to be more than one of us go to the dark side.
You're all coming with me.
Oh yeah, I can totally see Kay falling with Tychus if it goes wrong, if there is the right push.
You see, Roy's in an awkward position whereby he's never had a great hold on morality anyway.
As the t-shirts say.
but also, he's almost stuck in the past with the boyish adventures of him and Tychus. And now it's getting serious, and I honestly don't think he is noticing the difference and able to contemplate what that means in the future.
So he hasn't quite worked out that the stakes have changed.
We were having so much fun we didn't notice the body count.
Yes, basically that. It's like even really important things, like the fact that we made life, we created a basilisk, and it was really important to Roy for a brief period of time, and this guy isn't going to live more than 2 weeks, he said?
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay, bye, moving on to something else. This is just what happens in our life. We just move on. And even though I personally as a player was taken aback by Tychus being so cold to the Chadrafan, and Roy acknowledged that this was really grumpy.
That's his angry voice, I believe.
Even though completely in canon, this is angrier than I think Roy has ever seen you.
Yeah.
He hasn't been able to go, this isn't just his angry voice, this is a bit further. It's like the old story of, I know it's incorrect before any scientists have a go at me, if you put a frog in a pan of water and slowly heat it, the frog doesn't notice.
That's very incorrect.
It is incredibly incorrect. But that's the way Roy is seeing this. Things have been ramping up, and each time it's just been like, yeah, okay, this is what we do. Yeah, okay, this is what we do. And I don't know what is going to have to happen for... I actually think it might need a parental intervention to go, Roy, what are you letting our son do? And I'm like, hey, I'm just trying to He's not shot anybody that wasn't shooting him. You didn't say that he's not allowed to shoot them in the back, in the head, in the balls, or, to shoot them and wear their heads as hands. You didn't say anything that specific.
I'm just gonna say, can you imagine if Anakin Skywalker rebuilt Roy rather than rebuilt C-3PO? He'd still be with him as Vader, and I think you will still be with Tychus when he falls to the dark side.
Yeah, but if you can picture that, it's basically if Jar Jar Binks was bad. That's what Roy would be. Vader would be there going, I'm going to kill you. And I'd be like, yeah!
Whoop, whoop. I have this mental image now of Roy. You know that meme of the dog in the room on fire?
Yeah.
But it's Roy, and he's like, this is fine. And like Tychus is like on the Death Star, racking up worlds.
Friends don't let friends do genocide.
That's not in the song.
Time for a new song.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say the big surprise moment was the Doc, where do babies come from? And then an hour later, so that's where. Wait, what?
I am very impressed, by the way, that because a lesser group of players would have looked at a machine like that and gone, "Oh, it's an army printer. Fantastic, let's print an army." And you didn't do that, which is great, because it doesn't make sense for your characters.
Yeah, like what would our characters do with that army? We're not warlords. I just want to run my shop. Tychus at the moment, his vision's very narrow, and all he wanted to do was just what he'd been doing. Hanging out with his best mate and his boyfriend and his other mates every now and then, go drinking every Friday and Saturday down the Bloody Red Kiss, play some darts, sell guns to bad people, and make a lot of money doing it.
Simples.
There was no life goals beyond that. He was quite happy in his little bubble.
I mean, the Doc's to some extent still in his little bubble. I mean, to some extent, he's still, the guy in the bar who, as soon as shots started firing, was behind the counter, get the med kit, wait for it to die down, and then treat whoever looks bloodiest. But people are still actively getting shot. And towards the end of the season, it's been, oh, right, I'm in the war zone. Okay, that makes priorities a bit harder. These guys are still running. That guy's still able to push the button, which will make the ship go away. We can concentrate on this. And we've got...
You don't just push a button to make the ship go. It's complicated.
We've got all these massive priorities like these statues, which apparently have something to do with souls and immortality, and that's a bit higher content. And we could do with a little bit of a breathing space to process that. Want to work at what do we do next other than destroy it? And in the midst of that, Roy's pushed a button, has created an entire person who is going to be alive for 2 weeks. And I'm thinking, what on earth are we going to talk about for this character? And how are we going to make this guy's life meaningful in 2 weeks? Well, what are we going to do with this?
It'll be a montage. It'll be fun.
So the concept, the idea of, and we could have made an army. We're a bit busy dealing with what thing we've got.
I ran away from an army. I don't really want to have one here. Incidentally, I just suddenly thought, and I keep going back to it, what would happen if the Coldfire crew were doing the Shadows game? And all I can think of is a Chatrafan Prinkle twice as big as normal. So like a Sil 1 Chatrafan.
Don't worry, Jaren. I'll handle the orb for you.
Yeah, because Prinkle would definitely be the one who pressed the buttons. So.
Oh yeah.
But anyway.
Look! I have a broom. It has 3 settings: good, bad, super bad.
Because that's the thing that surprised me the most, is that when I named the lightsaber settings from normal, evil, and super evil, I was in fact right. That was.
You were.
I mean, it's an onyx black handle with gold with runes on it.
So goth doesn't necessarily mean bad.
We've not seen the lightsaber. Yeah. This is the first lightsaber we've seen. Maybe they're all like that. We didn't know.
It's not goth. There's no button that generates patchouli unless you've not found it.
Yeah, but if you twist it, it plays Temple of Love.
Shall we spin the wheel of questions?
We can do, because I definitely can't think of what Agatha would have done in that ziggurat.
Oh, can I just say one? I was quite surprised that the Doc isn't glowing this series, because it was really important to, I think, the bonding between the Doc and Roy, that Roy sees you as this amazing, glowing, caring person who's, a little nervous, but you're clearly the good guy in all of this. And this is it's like, oh, you're not glowing. Well, what's the point of you?
I did ask a few times, but it turns out I wasn't.
I know. I'm so gutted. We should have house ruled it then.
Next season, more glowing. Got it.
Next question.
This actually neatly dovetails in once again. This is a question from Marcus, and it's approximately how long will the rest of the PC survive when Kay turns his lightsaber to setting 3? A fair old while, I imagine. As long as you're not turning it on us, we'll be all right. But like the main thing I'm very aware of is our lack of armour, and for the rest of us except Kay, our lack of melee skills. So it depends if we get you at range.
Yeah, if one of us goes to the dark side, hopefully it'll be you first, because Kay, when he starts waving the lightsaber around, is quite deadly. And the only thing that's really stopping him from waving the lightsaber around is he doesn't really think he's trying to be the good guy. He really is. He's really trying, but he's not very good at being the good guy. So he kind of fails a lot.
I'm a B1 battle droid, so I will last exactly as long as it takes for you to say something idiotic or moronic, and then I'll die.
So, seconds.
Yeah. Like, hey, what's that? Ah! There we go, that's me.
The Doc can reattach that severed limb, can't he? And when he says no, then the Doc dies.
I have an ominous answer to this question, and it's another question, which is, depends where Kay is standing at the time.
Ooh.
Thanks for that, Ed. Thank you. That's not at all frightening. Next question. Spin, wheel, spin. This is from the Blamed Cat. I'll stop saying that because he will get annoyed with me. It's from Blamed Cat, and it is, everyone, if your character was to be invited to a potluck, what thing would you bring to the table? What meal would you bring?
The Doc would bring a potluck. He would bring quite a few different things. I imagine he can't stick on one specific dish.
Yeah, but do you cook them or do you get your wives to cook them?
I was just thinking he's got more than one brain. He can multitask. I was just working on the resources he has just on Keenan Bale.
Oh, yeah, cool.
He'd bring tapas.
Tychus would, of course, bring cheese and pineapple on sticks.
Naturally. The Cinnabelle pineapples are really nice.
And that's how you know it's a party. Things on sticks. And party rings. They're the two signifiers.
Whereas Kay was from an imperial family, a quite well-to-do imperial family. He's not really good at cooking. He'd probably just arrive and then order in.
Yeah, 16 pizzas.
Yeah.
Braca would bring the party.
Yeah. There ain't no party like a Braca party, because a Braca party don't stop. I'm to understand.
Roy's bringing juice boxes, animal crackers, and an EpiPen.
Next question. This is a combined question. Leslie submitted a question and Dustbuster submitted a question, but they kind of worked more as one, and it is, why have we not given Roy yet a second set of functional arms to be more like Tychus? And would Roy actually want that in the first place? So, speaking from Tychus' point of view and his family, it's because the chassis doesn't really support it, but it's something that Tychus is working on. Because from Tychus' point of view, he wants Roy to have those extra arms so that we can be proper buddies. And probably at some point change your head from that kind of roughly Geonosis-inspired, like, long horse thing to something round with like an inflatable wattle so that you can join him going when startled and surprised.
I imagine your secret's handshake doesn't work when he's only got 2 arms as well.
Yeah. But yes, Mim, would Roy want them?
Yeah, definitely.
More elaborate puppet shows.
Oh yeah, how many heads can I have on my hands if I've got 4 arms? Woohoo! Roy would definitely love 4 arms. I mean, he was absolutely thrilled when he got his crest because, you know, that made him feel like part of the family, part of the team. It was really cool. He's just not. He's been made aware that it wouldn't work, so he's not put too much more thought into that because he's easily distracted by the next thing. But that would be brilliant. I would love that. That would be absolutely fantastic.
Roy's crest, is that where all the baby monitoring stuff is?
Who knows?
Probably. The original crest, no, because that was just Tychus and some metal and a bolt welder. But I imagine when it was replaced with like the detachable version that his parents put on.
The only thing that's important is I keep my tongue. The weird little sticky out tongue thing. It's just too cute. I love it.
Yeah.
Next question.
Next question. This is from Leslie. Does the Doctor like tea?
Yes. I'm not really sure how much I can elaborate on this one.
What kind of tea?
I imagine there's a variety of tastes.
Oh, do you drink really, really complicated tea? Posh tea that has to be steeped? Do you have an artisan tea making set?
I imagine he probably doesn't on Keen Vale, and I don't imagine he's inquired on the black market as to acquiring one, but I imagine there's probably one on at home.
I imagine he did have one when he arrived on Keen Vale, but very rapidly.
It was stolen, destroyed, exploded, something.
Can I just I want some more detail on this tea, and I'm not even being stupid. Hot tea or cold tea, or both, depending on the situation?
I imagine probably hot tea, but...
Hot tea. Milk and sugar, or a slice of lemon?
Lemon.
Lemon. A slice of lemon.
Cute.
Do you take milk? Do you take milk?
Yes.
Okay.
However it comes.
Is the milk blue? That's the question. Is it blue milk? Because it's Star Wars, and, we have to keep going.
Not all milk is blue.
Not all blue is milk.
Behold a man. Next question from Blamed Cat. What is your favourite advert from this season? I'm really torn because Roy's songs have made it for me.
Yeah,
I love Roy's songs. But also, the Bayern Ublix advert just makes me smile every time I hear it. And I know that's really self-indulgent because I did it.
Massively self-indulgent.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, because I'm very much like yourself with the songs, because I very much love them. I still sing "Don't Shoot People."
Aww,
Yes,
thank
me
you.
too. I am trying to introduce this to many of my friends, especially the ones who have kids.
I'll be honest, I very much liked doing and this is another one of Mims, very much like doing the editing of Lofcat Crunchies. It's very short, but I really do like, there's a lot of layers to that one. But other than that, it's difficult. I can't see any that are better than Don't Shoot People. I love it.
I love Don't Shoot People, and at some point, I don't know, every time I think about Oberon, I keep thinking, that's a song that Oberon should learn.
I mean, to be honest, if we're really going into it, the Critical Ditto promo really made me laugh. But that's not one of our adverts. That's just an advert we had on.
It was a great one, though. I will admit right now, I struggle to remember which adverts are which ones were in this season and which weren't. Because when I get ideas for adverts, I tend to get ideas for like 3 at a time. And then they get recorded, put to one side, and used as and when they're necessary.
Some of the adverts from this one we recorded back in 2018. So yeah, it's a...
So I don't know. There are so many good ones. Like, was Owl's Sandwiches this season, or was that last season?
that was last season.
That was last season.
Would you like me to go through them all?
Yeah. Just give me a quick rundown.
Yeah, Don't Shoot People, the Parsec song. We have the Biscuit Baron's Bonanza Bucket, Lofcat Crunchies, Boobar Baby Chow, Wookie Cookies, Buckle Up Buddy, the Audio Space Books, and the Obelix, Celestin Champagne, and the Excruciator Droid. I think that was it. Oh, and Stigwin's Relaxation Emporium as well.
Oh, that was good. I think it might be Boobar Baby Chow. I liked Boobar Baby Chow.
I did almost say Wookie Cookies, but I wasn't sure if it was this season.
Yeah, Wookie Cookies was episode 7. But I believe we recorded Wookie Cookies back in the first season.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and I found the folder with all of our potential adverts in and started doing them again.
So yeah, Boobar Baby Chow.
Next question is... from Blamed Cat. Everybody, either in character or out of character, finish this sentence. All you need is...
Blood.
A blaster at your hip and your best bud by your side.
Most impact.
Answering as Ed, all you need is dice or notepad or, angst. All you need is angst is my general family motto. Speaking as Bracker, all you need is absolute power.
And K, all you need is redemption, which is something he's not going to get.
Especially not hanging out with Tychus.
No.
None of those fit into the Beatles song. So I answered as both Mim and Roy, because basically Roy is Mim, but I take away that millisecond of should I say this or do this and just let it happen.
This is why you're not allowed near dead bodies anymore, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, next question is from Marcus. Will we be getting any more Tiny Tychus adventures?
Oh no!
Potentially. I think I'm going to rewrite the rules a little bit, but yeah, I think we could possibly do another Tiny Tychus at some point. If people are interested,
I'm very interested in another Tiny Tychus.
We'll have to think of another kids movie that we can rip off.
Gremlins.
Gremlins. No, that's a good idea. Yeah, we're doing a Tiny Tychus based on Gremlins.
We haven't used the Roy Story title yet.
Yes.
Yeah, Roy Story, I really liked the idea. But I think rather than having Gremlins, maybe we'll have blue Lego morphs that you shouldn't get wet.
Yeah. I thought I remembered this from last time, but Mum and Dad took the memory away from me. It's probably for the best. Next question is a two-parter from Leslie. Does Kay wear a watch? Does Tychus wear 4 watches?
So Kay does not wear a watch because Kay is on the run and hiding from the man. He's a little bit on the paranoid side, and I probably imagine that he feels that he can be tracked through a watch, so he doesn't wear one.
Tychus doesn't wear any watches at all because they get broken too easily when he's working in his shop, and he's always surrounded by droids who have internal chronometers. So if he needs to know the time, generally he just is like, Roy, what time is it?
Bingly, bingly, beep. The time is 2:45-ish.
Yes.
So if you ask 4:55 what the time is and he says 4:55, do you think he's just saying his name, or is he actually...
He's not a Pokemon. Next question. From Blame Cat. Players, regarding the Bridge of Souls, if you could play a one-shot with an alternate version of your character, what would you choose?
Evil Imperial Death Squad. Yeah?
What's to say you're not already on that timeline?
Well, because when everybody says the Doctor, there's not this kind of shiver that runs down your spine of because he's doing one of his special experiments or something like that. We're not the bad guys yet.
If I remember right with you, there was a brief scene of the alternate reality where the Doc became a senator, and I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, but you have to sit next to Jar Jar.
I mean, I think you've just written it. That's the episode. We'll do that.
He's a representative. You'll be fine. They get cheaper seats.
It's a good question, because one of the nice things about having something like that in your setting is that it means that we can, if we wanted to do a ridiculous crossover, we could. If we wanted to do a ridiculous bounce-off episode, I mean, we do it anyway. We can just justify it slightly more in, within the diegetic story.
I'd like to play an alternate universe Tychus where the Separatists won and his parents hadn't had to go on the run, and Roy wasn't cobbled together from what spares they could get on this primitive backwater and what bits they'd managed to steal from the Clone Wars, and they were highly respected. So his perspective on life and how you get by and what you need to do to survive, and that the kind of the patina that is currently on Tychus's soul that is pushing him further and further down the road that he's on wouldn't be there. I think that would be an interesting one.
I don't think Roy really wants to be in any of the alternate universes that he saw through the eyes of the other droids, because they all died.
Yeah.
Unless there's like a Mr. Bone style one where there's one or two that have...
You are the Mr. Bone style one.
I am the Mr. Bone style one. Yeah, I think I'm living my best life. Corpses and all.
Hashtag corpses and all.
This is where I have like a head on my hand going, yes, I'm living my best life. What do you think, Mr. Flopsy? Yes, I think you're living your best life too.
Next question is from Dustbuster, and it's Kay. What's your greatest fear?
That he's not going to be able to get to a point where he either forgives himself or he's done enough good to offset the red in his ledger. Essentially, dying in a pointless way that doesn't change the. Essentially, he's terrified that he was a bad person and wants to be a good person. And if time runs out before he becomes a good person, then where's he going? What's going on? He's a big angsty bunny. Our RK.
Okay. Next question is from Blamed Cat, and this might need us to kind of project a little bit ahead. And that is, after the Bridge of Souls, what is one small thing that has changed in our daily routines as our characters?
I can't answer that yet. Sorry.
I think that might need to be a find out in play, that one, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I know from Roy's perspective. he is really, really going to ramp up the being unhappy when he sees a lightsaber or a Jedi.
Yeah, we got to get that General Kenobi before he gets us.
We do.
There's going to be a few more outbursts, I imagine, based on the genetic memory.
Kind of bouncing off that, and again, I think it might end up being something that we have to find out in play as we go. But, like, after Roy's experiences, is his inherent kind of Jedi fear, is that restricted solely to lightsabers? Or is it going to be that as he sees us more and more starting to use our own particular spanky wing-wang powers, is that going to start triggering that reaction, do you think?
Yeah, I think it will. But if you think about it, every time he's seen you guys using your powers, it's been either a cool trick, the Doc glowing, or Tychus is just good at things. He's never really acknowledged it until recently as being an inherent power. And Kay's just a madman with a lightsaber who's good at piloting. Again, you can explain all of these away as being that's just what they do.
Yeah. I don't have any outward skills that are weird or anything like that, certainly.
But yeah, as soon as any of you start doing the proper mythical stuff with, oh yes, I'm going to lift a rock or do something that's like ding ding ding, Jedi alert, there's going to be some issues. I've always said at the start of this, it's going to be interesting as Tychus develops his Force powers, what's going to happen with Roy. Whether Roy was going to want to follow Tychus and maybe start to develop Force, something to do with the Force as well, or whether he's going to maintain his dislike, inherent distrust of it. And yeah.
So this is a cluster of questions that all kind of need to flow from one another by Mr. T, and it is beach episode. We're doing a beach episode, ladies, gentlemen, and others. We're doing a beach episode. Who's first in the water? Who has the Hello Porgy towel? Who's mumbling first about sand? Who cooks for everyone? Who fishes?
Kinabel is just a big beach, though.
Yeah.
So this entire season has been a beach episode.
No, because Kina Bell's a desert. A beach, you need a sea next to it.
Oh, I suppose, yeah. Right, who goes in the water first? I don't think Kay really works well with the beach. I think he's going to be up near a big umbrella, grumbling about the fact that we're here. He's a miserable sod.
That's our Anakin.
Yeah.
Sand.
Yeah, so I think mumbling about sand is probably okay.
I think if we've reached the point where we've reached a beach and we've got time to think about it, because the Doc doesn't usually have time to think about what he's going to do in his off time, otherwise he'd have gotten Life Day presents for people. I think other than that, I think the Doc would probably be A, first in the water, and B, would be doing the cooking. He may even be the one with the blanket.
I'm just going to pull away from so I really like the fact that the Doc did not get Life Day presents for everybody else, because that demonstrates that Kay and Tychus don't really have anybody else. We just have, Tychus has Carween and his family, but not a great deal of outside friends. Kay doesn't have anybody at all, but the Doc's got a life. The Doc probably didn't really consider it because he's got a family, he's got a life, he's far more grounded than the rest of us. So I like the fact he didn't get them, because it kind of says a lot about what the Doc is.
Yeah. And also, I suppose it kind of links in as well with the Doc being, I think, like one step back from the rest of us, because, yeah, you have a life, you have a career, you're a lot older than us, you've got something actually going on. You've got a purpose for being in Keenabale that isn't just because you're in Keenabale.
You have morals.
And you have morals. Yeah.
And the rest of it is I'm dealing with, bodies are incoming every day because people keep shooting each other in Keenabale.
Sorry about that.
You could have brought one for Roy. Roy loved a body.
Surf's up!
Anyway, sorry. Beach episode.
I imagine Roy's the one who would be fishing, but Roy would be fishing by, standing somewhere high and then just sniping fish with blaster rifles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm bringing, when I say fish, this is like the biggest, evilest looking space fish ever, and I'm like, Doc, can this fit on the barbecue? Kay, bring your lightsaber over, just slice off a few bits.
I think probably Tychus would go in the water first, because he's young and impulsive.
Exuberant.
Yeah, but I don't think if Kay's got a Hello Porgy towel, it's because it was the one at the charity shop that he found, and he doesn't care about what's on the front of it.
Now, as Ross has said, the Doc has the Hello Porgy towel.
I think if the Doc's the first one in the water to paddle around, I think the Tychus is straight after him, but with the snorkel.
Yeah, I imagine the Doc kind of just paddling and having fun, and Tychus just charging headfirst into the waves to see how deep he can get before and then realising he can't swim and just kind of inflating his wattle and floating like.
Roy doing a cannonball, but also making sure that Tychus has got sunscreen on all the time.
In the case of emergency, can Roy inflate?
I wouldn't be surprised.
See, I have this mental image of what happens when the party in Shadows decides to go to a beach planet. And what happens is, you make an astrogation roll, you make some sort of critical fail, and you all end up turning it up on Scarif, which has got beaches. It's very pretty.
Yes, because if things were going to go well, we wouldn't have a GM.
Sorry, no, we've just headed to Naboo, and there's a nice lake, and it's lovely, and I've caught a Gungan.
You found an underwater corpse. Excellent.
Well, it wasn't a corpse before I found it, but what's the point of fishing if you're not going to eat what you catch?
It kept flopping around, Took
me half an hour to land him. I'm so proud. Anyway.
Next question is from Blamed Cat, and it's what is Tychus's next project? Armour.
Yes.
Armour. Definitely armour. And then hopefully building Roy an extra pair of arms. But armour, mostly armour. Having now been shot properly a few times, his robes just ain't going to cut it. And what I think is the last question, I think, for this episode is... it's for the characters, and it's from Blame Cat, and it's name one regret you have from this season.
Killed a species of mushrooms. I think I did get to know. I can't remember the character's name off the top of the basilisk we created. Didn't get to know him quite well enough.
Krellra.
We didn't get to know him well. I mean, the guy's got a lifespan of like 2 weeks, and we knew him for 3 hours, and then he disappeared.
Not even that.
Yeah,
like half an hour.
When he had the opportunity to not exist, he took it. Which is, anyway.
Rather than hang out with us.
Are you saying I'm a bad parent? Just come out and say it.
I'm not sure Kay has a great deal of regrets from this episode, this season. Because it was all kind of reacting to what was going on. And all the way through, he was trying to do the right thing. In the fact that this planet will not survive Braca being immortal. He wasn't doing anything for his own selfish need. He was trying to do the right thing to save the world, essentially. But yeah, I can't think of anything particular that he would. I think he would have liked not to have landed on those stormtroopers. Also on the speeder bike guys. Yeah. Because whilst he's fine walking in and shooting some guys, the same speeder bike group, and killing them, it's just landing a ship on somebody. It seems so impersonal.
Tychus's regret is that when we'd finally got Roy back and all those other droids, it wasn't insisting that we go back to Kina Bale and drop off the droids somewhere safe before then coming back here and following the holocron. Really, because Tychus feels very responsible for those droids now being dead, which is another reason why he was so angry with the Chadrafan, because he was like, if you hadn't brought these here, they'd still be functioning today.
Mm-hmm.
And if I hadn't gone, well, let's just go and drop all of this off, we've got time, then they'd also still be functioning. And I think that's probably another reason why he treated him so coldly, because there is that guilt behind him, and I think that's probably the only regret Tychus really has. I think Tychus should have more regrets for the things that he's done.
Yes.
And I think the fact that he doesn't is also indicative of his sauntering slowly downwards. But yeah, that's the actual only one. And I think it's also probably telling that his big regret is that he didn't manage to save artificial life and doesn't care at all about the actual lives that he did take. So, yeah.
Regrets.
You've had a few, but then again too few to mention.
Non, rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. No, I definitely do have Roy Because does Roy have regrets? Do I have regrets? What is regret? I do regret not being able to have created life that lasts longer and had a whole moment of bonding. I mean, I think if I recall correctly, I very quickly tried to throw him a birthday party. Like, quick, sing happy birthday to them. There's never had a party, never had a cake. I think that could have been some brilliant emotional attachment for Roy if he wasn't so flighty. And if he hadn't been a full-grown basilisk warrior who wanted to go off and die.
Yeah.
Alternatively, there's a lot of things. Cause it's just because Roy sees something, goes, wow, that's cool, plays with it for 5 minutes, and then goes off and does other things. It would have been cool to have a look around the library and maybe learn some funky knowledge. But it's just what my character does. He's far too...
He's got a rucksack full of stuff. It's fine.
Yeah, but he doesn't care about it now. It's in the past. It's in the past. Can I just say very quickly, my favourite thing, I think, throughout the whole of this, it's going to seem a little bit self-congratulatory, but it was the bats.
Yes.
It was.
Yes.
I was not trying to be silly. I was not trying to be funny. I wasn't trying to be a wise ass or anything like that. It was just Carween was telling me what to shoot. Carween said bats, so Roy shot the bats. And that moment of not realizing that you thought I was still shooting at the TIE fighters. The TIE fighters. I switched to shooting the bats, and Ed going, no, you're not shooting bats, you're shooting TIE fighters, aren't you? Oh,
way to turn my advantages into a disadvantage there, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Hey, it worked out in the long run, but that was an absolute moment of pure unplanned comedy gold for me. I just found that freaking hilarious, and the way everyone responded, and we're like, no, the editing of that was gorgeous. We're gonna leave this in, do a Wayne's World, go back in time and find out it was the bat that exploded.
Yeah, MVP moment right there, Mim. Fair play.
That was my favourite part. Thank you so much, Ed, for being able to go, right, yep, okay, we're going to change this. Boom.
Oh, right, Ed, any final thoughts then before we sign off this episode?
I have a great set of players, and thanks for letting me tell this ridiculous story, and thanks to everyone who's listening as well. Thanks for supporting the show. I am looking forward to running the next chapter, but I'm also really looking forward to having a bit of a break and getting my teeth stuck into some other exciting things that we've got planned. So thank you to everyone involved. It's been amazing so far.
And yes, well, there we are then. That wraps up Shadows of the Jedi, Chapter 2, but doesn't entirely wrap up Season 4, because as is tradition, before we go into Coldfire Chronicles, we've got a couple of little bits in between to keep you entertained. And the first one of those will be starting off next episode in a fortnight, or immediately if you're binge listening to this from the future. Where we joined with a couple of guest stars, and I refreshed myself on how to run this game by getting back behind the screen and telling a little tale, which I like to call a fistful of credits. Until then, everyone stay safe and stay well. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Force Majeure is played using the Star Wars Force and Destiny game system by Fantasy Flight Games and Lucas Books. Our intro music for this season is Unholy Night by Kevin MacLeod, and our outro music remains Suburban Outlaw by Forget the Whale, both used with gratitude under the Creative Commons license. If you like the show and want to interact with us, we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, all of which are at Force Majeure Pod, though Twitter is probably where you're going to find us more regularly. If you enjoy what we do and want to support the show, there's 3 ways you can do that. The first is via our Patreon at patreon.com/forcemajeurepod. The second is by buying us a coffee at ko-fi.com/forcemajeurepod. And the third way is by rating and reviewing us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere where you can find us. We really like reviews. It tells us that we're telling the stories that you want to hear and helps other people find us. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.